Dr. Han Jiho rubbed his tired eyes and stretched in his chair. The small office inside Europa Research Station had been his home for the past 3 years. The walls were covered with charts showing sound wave patterns. His desk was cluttered, with tablets, coffee cups, and notebooks filled with his neat handwriting. Another day listening to nothing, he said to himself. The station orbited Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Scientists had known for decades that a vast ocean existed under Europa's icy surface. Where there was water, there might be life. That was why Han was here, to listen for signs of life in that hidden ocean. Han played back the recordings from the deep water microphones for the 5th time that day. He was about to stop when something caught his attention. A pattern. Not random noise, but something with structure. He sat up straight and adjusted his headphones. There it was again, a series of pulses that repeated in a way that seemed too regular to be natural currents or ice movements. Computer, isolate frequency band 12 through 35, he said. The computer removed background noise, making the pattern clearer. Han's heart beat faster. The sounds formed mathematical relationships, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and other patterns that suggested intelligence. He pressed the communication button on his desk. Director Park, I need you to hear something. 10 hours later, a meeting was called in the station's main conference room. Director Park Jun stood at the front, her face serious. Dr. Han has discovered what we believe may be evidence of non-human intelligence in Europa's ocean, she said to the 20 scientists gathered there. Murmurs filled the room. Some faces showed excitement, others showed doubt. We need to investigate closer, Director Park continued. The Pathfinder vessel will descend to the source of these signals. Captain Kim will lead the mission. Captain Kim Doyen nodded from his seat. He was a respected explorer with 10 years of experience leading missions on water worlds. His calm face showed no fear, only focus. We leave in 12 hours, Captain Kim said. I will need a specialist team. Dr. Song-Mina packed her equipment carefully. As the station's xenobiologist, she had studied theoretical alien life forms for years. Now she might actually meet one. Her hands shook slightly as she placed delicate sensors in their cases. Nervous? Asked a voice from the doorway. Song looked up to see Jin Hyuk leaning against the doorframe. The deep-sea rescue specialist had a reputation for being fearless. Before coming to space, he had saved 17 people from a collapsed underwater mining operation on Earth. A little, Song admitted. You? Jin shrugged. I gave up being nervous years ago. It wastes energy. Song knew this wasn't completely true. Everyone felt fear. Jin just hid his better than most. Do you really think there's something alive down there? Song asked. I don't know, Jin said. But my grandmother used to tell stories about beings that lived in the deepest waters. Guardians, she called them. Song raised an eyebrow. You believe in those stories? I believe the universe is stranger than we imagine, Jin replied. See you at launch. The Pathfinder was small compared to other research vessels, but it was built to withstand extreme pressure. Its round shape reminded Song of ancient deep-sea exploration vehicles from Earth's history, but with more advanced materials and technology. Captain Kim welcomed the team as they boarded. Song, Jin, and 3 others, Li Wei the engineer, Choi Yun the physicist, and Rodriguez the pilot. Our mission is to descend to a depth of 20 kilometers, locate the source of the signals, observe, and report back, Captain Kim said. No unnecessary risks. They strapped into their seats as Rodriguez guided the Pathfinder away from the station. The small vessel moved toward a spot on Europa's surface where the ice was thinnest. Beginning melt procedure, Rodriguez announced. Lasers from the Pathfinder cut through the ice, creating a tunnel wide enough for the vessel to pass through. Water vapor filled the view outside as they descended. Ice thickness, 2 kilometers. Li Wei reported. Hull integrity at 100%. The vessel pushed through the last layer of ice and entered the dark ocean below. Lights automatically switched on, illuminating the water around them. We are in, Captain Kim said. Dr. Han, can you hear us? Loud and clear, Captain. Han's voice came through the communication system. The signal is getting stronger as you descend. Keep going. Song activated her sensors. The water outside was salty, similar to Earth's oceans but with different mineral content. Perfect conditions for life. They descended deeper. 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers. Signal strength increasing, Han reported. You should be close. Suddenly, the communication system crackled with static. Europa Station, you're breaking up, Captain Kim said. Han's voice came through broken and distorted. Something. Interference. Large, moving, then silence. We've lost contact, Li Wei said. Captain Kim remained calm. Continue the mission, all sensors recording. Song checked her equipment. Captain, I'm detecting something big. Very big. How big? Jin asked. Before Song could answer, the Pathfinder shook violently. Something had disturbed the water around them. Stabilizing, Rodriguez called out, hands moving quickly over the controls. The vessel's external cameras showed only darkness, but the sonar display told another story. A massive shape moved below them, larger than anything in Earth's oceans, larger than the Pathfinder, larger than Europa Station itself. That's impossible, Choi Yun whispered. No living thing could be that size. But the readings didn't lie. Something alive moved in the depths, something ancient and enormous. It's coming toward us, Rodriguez warned. Jin moved to the window and looked out into the darkness. For a moment, he thought of his grandmother's stories again. The guardians of the deep waters who slept until they were needed. All lights to maximum, Captain Kim ordered. The Pathfinder's powerful lights cut through the dark water, and everyone gasped. In the distance, partially illuminated by their lights, was a creature of impossible size and strange beauty. Its body stretched beyond what they could see, with skin that seemed to glow with patterns like stars in the night sky. Parts of it looked like Earth sea creatures, tentacles like giant squid, fins like whales, but combined in ways that defied understanding. Song couldn't find words to describe it. A Leviathan, Jin finished for her. The massive creature turned toward them, seeming to notice their small vessel for the first time. The water around them began to vibrate with sound patterns similar to what Han had recorded. It's communicating, Song said. The Pathfinder drifted in the current created by the creature's movement. They were being pulled closer to it. Engines not responding, Rodriguez reported, a note of panic in his voice. Captain Kim stayed calm. Keep trying. All systems check. Something is affecting our electronics, Li Wei said. All systems failing except life support. The Leviathan moved closer, its massive form now surrounding their vessel on all sides. Through the windows they could see patterns of light moving across its skin, complex and mathematical like a language written in light. It's beautiful, Song whispered. Jin nodded slowly. And deadly. We need to find a way to communicate with it. The Leviathan's eye, if it was an eye, came into view. It was larger than their entire vessel, ancient and full of intelligence. It looked at the tiny human ship as a human might look at a strange insect. The Pathfinder shook again as the creature wrapped part of itself around the vessel. Captain Kim looked at his crew. We came to make first contact, he said quietly. It seems we have succeeded. Professor Li Jiwan wiped sweat from her forehead. The desert sun beat down on the excavation site near the ruins of ancient Babylon. This area of Iraq had been explored by archaeologists for over a century, but new discoveries were still being made. Li had spent 15 years studying pre-Sumerian artifacts. Most scholars focused on the better-known Sumerian civilization, but Li believed something important existed before them, something that had been almost completely erased from history. Professor, you need to see this, called her assistant Omar. Li hurried across the dig site to where workers had uncovered the entrance to what looked like an underground chamber. The stone doorway had markings unlike anything in her textbooks. How old? She asked, touching the strange symbols with gentle fingers. Initial dating puts it at around 10,000 years old, Omar said, before any known writing system. Lee felt a chill despite the desert heat. "Let's open it." 6 hours later, Lee stood inside the chamber. The team had installed lights, revealing walls covered with carvings. The floor was covered with sand and dust from thousands of years, but in the center sat a stone table. On the table were clay tablets, preserved in the dry air of the sealed chamber. "This changes everything we know," Lee whispered. The carvings showed star maps of astonishing accuracy. They depicted the solar system with all planets in correct positions. Most strange were the humanoid figures shown traveling between stars. The tablets contained symbols that looked mathematical, arranged in patterns Lee had never seen before. "Get me a secure line to Dr. Yoon at MIT, Lee told Omar, "and to my sister at NASA." When the call connected, Lee held up one of the tablets to the camera. "Dr. Yoon, can you run these symbols through your language analysis program?" Dr. Yoon adjusted his glasses and leaned toward his screen. "Fascinating. Give me a few hours." Lee's sister, Dr. Nari Park, called back first. "Jiwon, something strange is happening," Nari said, her face serious on the video screen. "The patterns you sent me match sound waves we just received from Europa." Lee sat down hard on her folding chair. "What?" "An expedition is happening right now. A research team found sound patterns in Europa's ocean that match these symbols exactly." Lee felt her heart race. "The chamber shows humans coming from the stars. What if our ancestors weren't from Earth originally?" "That's impossible," Nari said. "Is it? These tablets are older than any known civilization, yet they show accurate star positions and advanced mathematics." Lee looked at the tablet in her hands. The biggest pattern repeats throughout the chamber, like a name or important word. "That's the exact pattern our team heard from Europa," Nari said. Later that night, Lee couldn't sleep. She returned to the chamber alone, just with a flashlight. Something was calling to her. She examined the largest wall carving again. The carving showed a massive creature in water. Above it were smaller figures in what looked like a vessel. Between them was a symbol that appeared throughout the chamber. Lee touched the symbol gently. As her fingers passed over it, she felt a strange vibration. The wall seemed to hum briefly. "Impossible," she whispered. Her phone rang, making her jump. It was Dr. Yoon. "Professor Lee, my program finished analyzing the symbols," he said excitedly. "They form a mathematical language based on prime numbers. But there's something else. When converted to sound waves, they create patterns identical to whale songs on Earth, but much more complex." "Send me the audio," Lee said. When the file arrived, Lee played it in the chamber. The sound echoed off the ancient walls, deep rhythmic pulses that seemed to resonate with the stone itself. As the sound played, dust fell from cracks in the wall. Lee stepped back, worried the vibrations might damage the site. But instead of crumbling, part of the wall slid open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a single object, a small black cube made of material that didn't look like stone or metal. It had a smooth surface that seemed to absorb light. Lee carefully picked it up. As soon as her fingers touched it, images flooded her mind. Vast oceans, enormous creatures, stars exploding, and humanoid beings traveling between worlds. She dropped the cube in shock. The images stopped immediately. "This is more than archaeology," she whispered to herself. "This is our origin story." The next morning, Lee gathered her team. "I believe these artifacts tell the story of how humans first came to Earth," she explained. "Not as primitive apes evolving, but as space travelers who seeded this world." Her team looked skeptical. "The symbols describe guardians left in the oceans of certain worlds," Lee continued. "Enormous beings that would recognize the original human language, what the tablets call the true name." Omar raised his hand. "Professor, with respect, this sounds like science fiction." "I know how it sounds," Lee admitted. "But the evidence is here, and the same sound patterns in these tablets are being heard right now on Europa, where a research team has encountered something massive in the ocean." Lee picked up her secure phone. "My sister at NASA confirmed it. Something is happening that connects us to whatever is under the ice on Europa." As if to confirm her words, the phone rang. It was Nari again. "Jiwan, we lost contact with the Pathfinder team," her sister said, voice tense. "Their last transmission mentioned a massive biological entity. They're trapped." Lee looked at the black cube she had found. "I think I know how to help them." That night, strange dreams came to everyone at the excavation site. Lee dreamed of floating in dark water, surrounded by bioluminescent patterns. Omar dreamed of ancient cities under strange stars. Others dreamed of enormous shadowy creatures moving through deep oceans. In the morning, Lee found more strange events happening. Instruments near the chamber gave impossible readings. Compass needles spun in circles. Digital devices showed random symbols that looked like the ones on the tablets. "The chamber is becoming active somehow," Lee told Omar, as if responding to something. Her phone rang again. Dr. Yoon sounded excited. "Professor Lee, I completed the audio analysis. The patterns form what linguists call a root language, something theoretically at the base of all human languages. And there's more. Certain ancient Korean phrases have mathematical structures that closely match these patterns." Lee remembered her grandmother's old songs and stories about star people and guardians in the deep. Stories she had thought were just folk tales. "Send everything you have to NASA immediately," Lee instructed. "Mark it for Dr. Nari Park. Urgent." In the chamber, Lee carefully documented every symbol. The tablets told a clear story now that she understood the basic pattern. They spoke of beings who traveled from a dying star system and spread life throughout the galaxy. They created guardians, enormous creatures placed in the oceans of promising worlds to watch over development. Most importantly, the tablets explained how these guardians would recognize the children of stars by their ability to speak the true name, a complex sound pattern that contained the story of human origin. "The expedition needs this information," Lee said to Omar. "They've encountered one of the guardians." As she worked frantically to decode the final tablet, Lee felt the black cube in her pocket grow warm. She took it out and found it glowing, with faint blue light. Patterns moved across its surface like waves in water. "It's responding to something," she realized. Lee connected an emergency call to Europa Station through NASA's priority channel. The connection was poor, breaking up every few seconds. "Dr. Han," she called. "This is Professor Lee Ji-won from the Baghdad excavation. I have critical information about what your team has encountered." Han's voice came through broken and distorted. "Professor, losing contact with Pathfinder? Massive creature?" "Listen carefully," Lee said urgently. "The creature responds to a specific sound pattern. It's not just a language. It's a name that contains the story of human origins." Lee transmitted the audio file of the pattern converted to sound waves. "Get this to the Pathfinder if you can. Tell them it must be spoken aloud or played, through speakers. It's how the Guardian will recognize them as the children of stars." The connection cut off completely. Lee stared at the silent phone, wondering if her message had gotten through in time. The black cube in her hand pulsed once, then went dark again. "Now we wait," she told her team, "and hope." Inside the Pathfinder, alarm lights flashed red. The vessel drifted in the dark waters of Europa, caught in a gentle but inescapable pull toward the massive creature. "All systems failing except life support," Leeway reported. The engineer's hands moved quickly over unresponsive controls. "We have about 12 hours of air left." Captain Kim Doyen remained calm. "Rodriguez, keep trying the engines. Dr. Song, what can you tell us about this entity?" Dr. Song Mina studied her readings with wide eyes. "It's unlike anything in our records. Its body composition includes elements we know, but arranged in ways that should be impossible, and it's producing energy in amounts that suggest it's been dormant for a very long time. Millions of years, maybe." "It's waking up," Jin Hyuk said quietly. He stood by the window, watching the vast creature. Its skin now glowed with increasing brightness, patterns of light moving like writing across its surface. "Yes," Song agreed. "All readings indicate it was in some form of hibernation, and now it's fully awakening. The energy output is increasing every minute." The Pathfinder shuddered as it was pulled closer to the creature. Through the windows, they could now see more details of its impossible form. Parts resembled Earth sea creatures, long tentacles, like giant squid, sections with scales like fish, other parts that looked almost mechanical. "It's beautiful," Choyun whispered. Jin nodded slowly. "My grandmother's stories mention the water guardians, creatures that slept in the deepest parts of the oceans, waiting for the right time to wake. Folk stories won't help us now, Li Do," Wei said tensely. "Maybe they will," Jin replied. "Every myth has some truth at its core." The creature pulled their vessel closer to what appeared to be its center. Here the patterns of light were brightest, forming complex mathematical sequences that repeated and evolved constantly. Captain Kim tried the communication system again. "Europa Station, do you read us? This is Pathfinder. We need immediate assistance." Only static answered. "The creature is generating some kind of electromagnetic field," Choi explained, checking her instruments. "It's blocking all our communications." Suddenly the vessel shook violently. Something wrapped around the Pathfinder, a giant appendage that looked like a cross between a tentacle and a hand. "Hull integrity at 82%, Li Wei called out. "The pressure is increasing." "It's testing our strength," Song said, watching her sensors. "Like how you might test an eggshell with your fingers." More appendages surrounded the vessel, each one glowing with the same light patterns. Where they touched the hull, small electrical discharges appeared. "It's scanning us," Song realized. "Sending electrical impulses through our hull to learn what's inside." "Can it break through?" Captain Kim asked. "Easily," Song replied. "But I don't think that's what it wants. It's curious." The creature's enormous eye came into view again, larger than their entire vessel. It studied them with ancient intelligence. "It doesn't see us as a threat," Jin said. "It doesn't even see us as equal beings. To it, we're like bacteria." "That's not very comforting," Rodriguez muttered. Hours passed. The creature continued to examine their vessel, occasionally sending vibrations through the hull that matched the patterns on its skin. Each time, the Pathfinder systems responded with bursts of static and temporary power surges. "It's trying to communicate," Song said, recording everything. "But it's like an elephant trying to talk to ants. The scale is too different." "Captain." Kim gathered the crew. "We need options. Our air will last 8 more hours. After that?" He didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew what would happen when the oxygen ran out. "We could try to communicate back," Song suggested. "Use our external speakers to replicate its sound patterns." "Worth a try," Captain Kim agreed. Song worked quickly, programming the external speakers to emit sounds matching the creature's vibrations. The speakers groaned with the low, complex tones. For a moment, the creature paused its movements. Then it resumed as before, showing no sign of understanding. "It didn't work," Li Wei said. "Maybe we're too small for it to notice our response," Choi suggested. Jin watched the patterns flow across the creature's skin. Something about them seemed familiar, though he couldn't say why. They reminded him of the songs his grandmother used to sing at night. Songs, she said, came from the stars. Back at Europa Station, Dr. Han Jiho worked frantically to re-establish contact with the Pathfinder. Nothing worked. The creature's electromagnetic field blocked all signals. Then his computer beeped with an incoming transmission from Earth. "Dr. Han, this is Professor Lee Ji-won," a woman's voice said through static. "I have critical information about what your team has encountered." Han listened carefully as the archaeologist explained her discovery: the ancient chamber, the tablets with patterns matching the sounds from Europa, and most importantly, the true name. "Get this to the Pathfinder," Lee said urgently. "It's how the Guardian will recognize them as the children of stars." An audio file came through before the connection cut off. Han played it, a complex sequence of sounds that perfectly matched what he had recorded from Europa's ocean. "This can't be coincidence," he said to himself. Han tried every possible way to send the file to the Pathfinder: radio signals, laser pulses, even sound waves through the water. Nothing seemed to penetrate the creature's field. Then he had an idea. The station had one quantum-linked communication device, a new technology that allowed instant communication regardless of distance or interference. It was only meant for emergency use, connecting to a single receiver on the Pathfinder. Han activated the quantum link and sent the audio file along with a brief message explaining its importance. Inside the Pathfinder, a small light began blinking on an unused console. "The quantum link," Li Wei said in surprise. "It's the only system still working." Captain Kim moved to the console and pressed the receive button. The message from Dr. Han played through the internal speakers. Then came the audio file, a complex pattern of sounds that made everyone in the crew feel strangely emotional. "Those sounds," Jin said, straightening up. "They're like my grandmother's songs." The message explained Professor Li's discovery and her theory about the creature being a guardian that would recognize humans by the true name. "We need to play this through the external speakers," Captain Kim decided. "At maximum volume." Song transferred the file to the speaker system. "Ready, Captain?" "Play it," he ordered. The sounds boomed out into the water of Europa, complex patterns that seemed to contain mathematics, emotions, and history all at once. The creature stopped moving. Its light patterns froze, then began shifting rapidly. The appendages around the Pathfinder loosened slightly. "It's responding," Song said excitedly. Then, just as quickly, the creature resumed its previous behavior. The appendages tightened again. "It didn't work," Rodriguez said, disappointment in his voice. "No, wait," Jin said, thinking hard. "The sound is right, but something's missing." He remembered his grandmother singing similar patterns, but with her human voice adding something the mechanical speakers couldn't capture. "The recording needs a human voice," Jin said suddenly. "The Guardian needs to hear the true name spoken by a human." The oxygen level warning beeped. 6 hours of air remained. The massive eye of the Leviathan moved closer to their window, ancient and powerful, watching the tiny humans trapped in their metal shell. Inside the vessel, Jin Hyuk closed his eyes and tried to remember every detail of his grandmother's songs under the stars. Jin Hyuk sat alone in his small cabin on the Pathfinder. Captain Kim had ordered everyone to rest in shifts to conserve oxygen. The air was already getting thinner. 5 hours of breathable air remained. Jin closed his eyes and thought of his grandmother. She had raised him after his parents died in a shuttle accident. Every night she would sing him strange songs that she said were older than Earth itself. As a child, he had believed her. As an adult, he had dismissed the songs as simple folk tales. Now, trapped in the depths of Europa's ocean with an ancient creature wrapped around their vessel, Jin wondered if his grandmother had been right all along. He took out a small voice recorder from his pocket. It was old-fashioned, a gift from his grandmother before she died. She had recorded a message for him, saying he would need it someday when he was far from Earth. Jin pressed play. His grandmother's voice filled the small room. She spoke in Korean, her voice soft but clear. "My dear Hyuk, when you hear this, you will be among the stars where our family truly began. Remember the songs I taught you. They are not just songs. They are our history, our true name, our connection to the guardians who watch over worlds with oceans. If you ever meet one, you will need to speak the name with your human voice, with the exact sounds I taught you. The guardians will remember even after millions of years." Jin stopped the recording. His hand trembled slightly. Could it really be possible? Was his grandmother part of some ancient lineage that preserved knowledge from before recorded history? He left his cabin and found Captain Kim and Dr. Song in the control room. "Captain, I think I know how to communicate with the creature," Jin said. At Europa Station, Dr. Han Jiho received another transmission from Earth. Professor Li Jiwan's face appeared on his screen, tired but excited. "Dr. Han, I've made another discovery," she said. "The tablet suggests that certain human lineages were entrusted with preserving the knowledge of our origins. They passed it down through generations in songs and stories. The mathematical pattern is only part of the true name. It needs a human voice with the right tonal qualities. But how will we find someone with the right voice pattern?" Han asked. "We already have," Li replied. Dr. Nari Park at NASA identified one of the Pathfinder crew members as having family roots in a small Korean coastal village known for its unusually old folk songs. His name is Jin Hyuk. Han felt a chill run down his spine. We sent the audio file to the Pathfinder, but they reported it didn't work. It needs to be spoken by Jin, not played by a machine, Lee explained. The tablets are clear about this. The Guardian recognizes the children of stars by their voice carrying the name. The connection began breaking up. Professor Lee's last words came through fragmented. Tell Jin, remember, songs, speak the name. Back on the Pathfinder, Captain Kim listened to Jin's explanation. The rest of the crew gathered around, faces showing a mixture of hope and doubt. My grandmother taught me songs that match the patterns we've recorded from this creature, Jin said. She told me they were passed down through our family for thousands of years. That's impossible, Li Wei said. No oral tradition stays intact for that long. Unless it was considered sacred and memorized exactly, Song pointed out. Many ancient texts were preserved that way. Captain Kim remained practical. What exactly are you proposing, Jin? I think I need to speak the pattern out loud, not just play it through speakers, Jin explained. The true name needs a human voice. The quantum communication device beeped. A new message from Dr. Han appeared on screen, confirming exactly what Jin had suggested. Professor Lee says Jin needs to speak the name himself, the message read. The Guardian will recognize a human voice carrying the pattern. Captain Kim looked at Jin. Do you think you can do this? Jin nodded slowly. I need to modify the external speakers to carry my voice underwater, and we need to adjust the frequency for water instead of air. I'll help with that, Choi offered. An hour later, they were ready. Choi had connected a microphone to the external speaker system and adjusted the settings to transmit Jin's voice clearly through water. This should work, she said. But your voice will sound different underwater. The oxygen level is at critical, Li Wei warned. 4 hours left. Everyone gathered in the control room. Jin sat at the microphone looking out the window at the enormous creature that still held their vessel in its grip. Its eye, big as a house, watched them with ancient intelligence. I'll try to match the exact pattern my grandmother taught me, Jin said. It's a series of sounds that don't make sense in any modern language, but they form mathematical relationships. Captain Kim nodded. We're all counting on you, Jin. Jin closed his eyes and recalled his grandmother singing under the stars on clear nights. The strange, haunting melody that she said was the song of their ancestors who came from beyond Earth. He began to sing into the microphone. His voice carried through the water, transformed by Choi's adjustments to match the density of Europa's ocean rather than Earth's air. The sounds were unlike any language the crew had ever heard, complex tones that rose and fell in patterns that seemed to contain mathematical truths. Outside, the creature's light patterns changed instantly. The rhythmic pulses froze, then began shifting rapidly. It's responding, Song said excitedly, watching her instruments. The bioluminescent patterns are reorganizing. Jin continued singing, his voice growing stronger as he remembered more of his grandmother's songs. The words, if they were words, felt ancient in his mouth, as if his body remembered them even if his mind did not fully understand them. The creature's appendages loosened their grip on the Pathfinder. Its enormous body shifted position. Keep going, Captain Kim urged. It's working. Jin sang the final pattern, the one his grandmother had said was the most important, the one she made him promise never to forget. As the last sound left his lips, the creature completely released the Pathfinder. Its massive form moved back slightly, creating distance between itself and the vessel. Then something unexpected happened. The creature's light patterns reformed into shapes that looked exactly like the symbols Professor Lee had found on the ancient tablets on Earth. It knows the language, Song whispered in awe. More surprising still, the creature's body began to change shape. Part of it moved forward, bending in a motion that looked impossible for something so massive. Is it attacking? Rodriguez asked nervously. No, Jin said, certainty in his voice. It's bowing. The enormous creature was indeed bending its front, section downward in what could only be described as a bow of respect toward the tiny human vessel. It recognized the true name, Jin said. It recognized us as the children of stars. The creature's eye moved closer to the window where Jin sat. Through it, Jin could see intelligence and recognition. It knew him, or rather, it knew what he represented, the return of those who had placed the Guardian here millions of years ago. Suddenly, the Pathfinder's systems began coming back online. Lights flickered on, and control panels lit up. Power returning, Leeway reported in surprise. Engine systems restarting. Communications are back, Rodriguez added. I can reach Europa Station. The creature was no longer blocking their systems. Instead, it seemed to be actively helping restore them. It's not just recognizing us, Song said, watching her instruments in amazement. It's accepting us as its masters. Jin shook his head. Not masters. Family. Outside the window, the ancient Guardian waited patiently, its patterns of light, telling a story that humanity was only beginning to remember. The giant creature moved through the dark waters of Europa with purpose. The Pathfinder followed, its engines now working perfectly. Captain Kim sat in his command chair, watching the enormous being lead them through the alien ocean. Where is it taking us? Leeway asked. I don't know, Captain Kim replied. But I think we should trust it. Dr. Song Mina studied her instruments, recording everything. The creature's light patterns had changed since Jin spoke the true name. They now pulsed, in sequences that were more regular, almost like a language waiting to be understood. Its biological readings have changed too, Song reported. It's using energy differently now, as if it activated systems that were dormant before. Jin Hyuk stood by the window, watching the Guardian. He felt a strange connection to it now, as if speaking the ancient sounds had linked them somehow. Song, are you recording the light patterns? He asked. Yes, every second, she confirmed. Good. I think it's trying to tell us something. They traveled deeper into Europa's ocean. The water pressure outside would have crushed their vessel if not for the protective field the creature now generated around them. It was taking them to depths no human craft could normally reach. After an hour of travel, they saw light ahead. Not the bioluminescence of the Guardian, but a different kind of light. Steady and artificial. What is that? Rodriguez asked, adjusting the vessel's course to keep following the creature. As they got closer, everyone gasped. Before them stood an enormous structure under the ice, a complex of buildings and machines that clearly did not evolve naturally. The architecture was unlike anything built by humans, with curves and angles that seemed to follow mathematical principles rather than practical needs. It's a base, Choi whispered. An alien base under the ice of Europa. The Guardian led them toward an opening in the structure. As they approached, lights activated along what appeared to be a docking area. The creature stopped and turned its massive eye toward the Pathfinder. I think it wants us to enter, Captain Kim said. Rodriguez guided the vessel carefully into the opening. Inside was a chamber filled with water that closed behind them. Then, surprisingly, the water began to drain away. It's an airlock, Leeway realized, designed for vessels like ours. When the water was gone, the inner door opened, revealing a dry corridor sized for human-like beings. Captain Kim looked at his crew. Suits on, we're going in. They walked through corridors that had been silent for millions of years. Yet everything looked new, as if time had not touched this place. Lights activated as they moved, responding to their presence. This technology is far beyond ours, Choi said, examining a control panel. But the design seems made for beings similar to humans, in size and shape. Because it was made by our ancestors, Jin said quietly, the people who left Earth long ago. They entered a large circular room. In the center stood a pedestal with a device that looked like a more complex version of the black cube Professor Lee had found on Earth. Look at the walls, Song gasped. Darda. Walls displayed images that began moving as they entered. They showed the history of a civilization, a people who looked human but with slightly different features. The images showed them traveling between stars, visiting different worlds and creating life. One sequence showed them placing guardians, creatures like the one that had led them here, in the oceans of various planets. The guardians were shown, protecting developing life until it reached a certain level of advancement. They were seeders, Song said. They traveled the galaxy, spreading life. Another sequence showed disaster, their home star becoming unstable. The people scattered to different worlds, including Earth. The final image showed a message written in the same symbols found on the ancient tablets. It says they will return someday, Jin translated, somehow understanding without knowing how. The children of stars will remember their heritage and reclaim their legacy. The device on the pedestal activated. A holographic display appeared, showing a map of the galaxy with certain stars highlighted. Those must be the worlds they seeded, Choi suggested, or where they went when they scattered, Jin added. The hologram zoomed in on one star system, their own. It showed Earth but also highlighted Europa and several other moons and planets. They didn't just go to Earth, Captain Kim realized. They spread throughout our solar system. The hologram changed to show humanoid figures meeting, the guardians on different worlds. In each image, the humans spoke or sang something that made the guardians respond. The true name is different for each guardian, Jin said, understanding flowing into his mind from somewhere deep and ancient. My family preserved the one for Europa's guardian. Are there others on Earth who know the other names? Song asked. Yes, Jin said with certainty. Different lineages preserve different pieces of our history. The device projected another hologram, this one showing a path leading up through Europa's ice to the surface. It was a map. It's showing us the way out, Rodriguez said. Captain Kim nodded. Our rescue route. The hologram expanded to show machinery activating throughout the structure. Systems that had been dormant for millions of years were coming online. It's not just showing us the way out, Li Wei said, examining the holographic data. It's building the way out for us. The machinery is creating a tunnel through the ice. Jin felt a presence behind them. They turned to see that the Guardian had somehow entered the base through a massive water-filled channel. Its eye looked at them through a large window separating the water from the air. The creature's skin displayed patterns that Jin could now somehow read. It was communicating directly to him. It says it has been waiting for us for millions of years, Jin translated, waiting for the children of stars to remember their name and return. Ask it what happens now, Captain Kim requested. Jin didn't need to speak aloud. He simply thought the question, and the Guardian responded with new patterns. It says this is just the beginning, Jin said. The base is sending signals to other Guardians on other worlds. The awakening has started. 3 days later, the Pathfinder emerged from Europa's ice, through the tunnel created by the ancient machinery. Europa Station sent shuttles to retrieve them. As they prepared to leave, Jin stood at the window looking down at the ice. Below, he knew, the Guardian had returned to its patrol of the ocean, but now with purpose rather than dormant waiting. Will we see it again? Song asked, joining him at the window. Yes, Jin said. It will be waiting when we return with better ships and more people who remember the old songs. 1 month later, a conference room in Geneva held the largest gathering of scientists and world leaders in history. Professor Li Jiwan stood at the podium, presenting her findings from the ancient chamber in Iraq. Beside her stood Jin and the IE Pathfinder crew. We have confirmed that similar chambers have been discovered on every continent, Li explained, each containing pieces of the same story, how humans came to Earth from the stars, and how Guardians were left to watch over us as we developed. Most remarkably, she continued, we've identified families across the world who preserved the knowledge of the true names through songs and stories, each family connected to a different Guardian on a different world. Jin stepped forward. The base on Europa has given us maps to other bases throughout our solar system and beyond. The Guardians are awakening. They recognize us now as the returning children of stars. The room erupted in excited discussion. On the large screen behind them, images from Europa showed the ancient base now fully active, lights glowing through the ice. "This is not just about our past," Jin said when the room quieted. "It's about our future. We were never meant to stay on one world. We came from the stars, and now it's time for us to return." He thought of his grandmother's songs under the night sky. She had known all along, passing the knowledge to him for this moment. Outside the conference room windows, people looked up at the night sky with new understanding. The stars were not just distant lights. They were beacons calling humanity home. And, in the dark ocean of Europa, the ancient guardian continued its patrol, its purpose fulfilled after millions of years of patient waiting. The children of stars had finally remembered their name.